Hi, my name's Tara Hounsey. I'm the Director of Communications here at UKFT, and I'm here as part of British Textile Week with Stephen Russell, Professor of Textile Materials and Technology at the University of Leeds. He's also a Director at the Leeds Institute for Textiles and Colour, Litac, and a Director of the Future Fashion Factory. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Tara.
Hi. Can you tell me a bit about Future Fashion Factory, please, and how it came about, and sort of what you're doing on behalf of the industry?
Yeah, of course. So, well, first of all, it's a large industry-led research and development programme. It was originally a £5.4 million investment from government, and then also attracted significant investment from the industry as well to set it up. We now have, I think, over 450 industry partners. There's a collaboration also between the University of Leeds, University of Huddersfield, and the Royal College of Art. And it's really all about increasing the competitiveness of the UK fashion and textile industry. So we have a whole host of different activities, but mainly centered around very targeted research and development to increase the agility and competitiveness of the UK's industry.
So can you talk me through a few of the funded projects that involve UK textile firms that you've had recently?
Maybe talk a few of them, because there's over 40 of them that we've supported. So I suppose to give you a flavour, I mean, a lot of the work focuses on high value, luxury-based textile materials and manufacturing, innovation in those areas. So some of the work covers new materials. So just to give you a few examples there, we're looking at methods of sustainably producing cotton using up to 80% less water, and then making those fibres into yarns and fabrics. That's UK innovation. We don't grow cotton in the UK to any great extent, but the technology to do it more sustainably is, of course, of global interest. We're also looking at extracting fibre from plants grown in saline agricultural conditions to extract fibre that would be suitable to be used for synthetic fillings in outdoor jackets and coats. Okay. And also recyclable materials to replace PTFE for windproof, waterproof and breathable clothing. Lots of things going on in manufacturing too, looking at integrating artificial intelligence into luxury fabric design and production to reduce lead times, and also a lot of work around new digital tools. So quantitative prediction of what fabric properties we're going to get before we make the fabric based on data. So instead of it being based on the memory of the person running the machine, we're using data now to predict what the fabric property is, and even the handle might be as a result of changing different process settings. And also, weirdly, the precise sort of movie quality simulation of fabrics and garments, so that you're able to have a conversation about how the fabric will drape, even how it will feel over the internet with a customer, B2B or B2C. So there's less necessity then to make physical samples. So
which is really relevant.
Not
really relevant at the moment as well.
Yeah, not only is it quicker, but it's also it also saves waste. Eliminates the need to be able to make physical samples. So that's just a bit of a taste. There's a kind of mixture of materials, textile manufacturing innovation, and also the sort of digitalization work going on to help the industry be more competitive in the future.
And that's really a mix of sort of historical, some of our really old companies that we have in the UK, some of the newer startups. It's a real mix of kind of established companies and growing new sort of startups.
It is. It's right from some of the biggest household names, big PLCs. So Burberry is one of our founding partners, and a lot of SMEs who are manufacturing in the UK. Many of them for actually hundreds of years in some cases. And one of the most exciting things, I think, is being able to forge new research collaborations between some of these emerging small companies and designers with the SMEs and with the larger companies too, because the innovation and the ideas are coming from different places, but to be able to deliver them into new capability requires collaboration to enable it to happen and be operationalized. So, it really is around industry-led collaboration with the academic expertise being harnessed to help to provide the solutions that the industry needs.
Definitely. Can you tell me a bit about some of the core research themes that sit alongside the funded projects?
So I think there are four. I'm going to remember them now off the top of my head. There are four main areas. I mean, one of them is not surprisingly around shifting from linear to circular economies. So that's not just about new materials and methods of reducing waste and so on, but it's also about looking at ways of making those opportunities economically viable so they can actually happen. And that means there are opportunities often to increase margins and create new business models that are actually quite exciting and competitive. So that's one area. Another area is, I suppose, best described as data-driven design. So there are a series of colleagues who are harnessing artificial intelligence and machine learning to help provide insights that will allow products to be designed more appropriately. So, these decisions that we have to make about, well, what color should this product be? What design attributes and features should it have? And the reason why that's important is because, we can get then hopefully closer to designing the right product for the right customer at the right time, but also making decisions that don't lead to unsold inventory, right? Or overproduction, or decisions that end up not turning out to be commercially ideal because we end up having to discount a load of products. So data-driven design is quite an important area. There's a lot going on there. With regard to manufacturing, we're also looking at a whole series of processes that we describe as late-stage customization. So these are new ways of manufacturing that enable yarns and fabrics to be rapidly and cost-effectively customized near the end of their production. So you can take a standard product and tweak it in lots of different ways at a later stage, depending on shifts in demand or in consumer preferences. So it's making our processes in textiles more agile in a way. And then finally, I hinted at it a little bit earlier on, we call it aesthetic communication. But what that actually means is communicating normally the uncommunicable. So how do you communicate how a fabric feels, right? Is a good one. But accurately simulating properties of garments and fabrics digitally, if it's done very, very well and very immersively, there's an enormous opportunity to reduce the time it takes to design and manufacture products and get customers to accept them, B2B, B2C, and D2C. So because you get to a position where you can decision make without so many physical samples. So you don't have to put fabrics in an envelope and send them 3,000 miles to the customer somewhere else. You can have that dialogue online to a greater extent. So that requires a blend of digital technology developments and hardware to enable it. So it sounds a bit, you know, a bit spaceship, but we're closer and closer to the.
Yeah. I think we're starting to see some of that come into, and it's certainly moved fast tracked in the last couple of years. But I think there's a lot needs to still be done to kind of that's available commercially. So I think there's lots of areas for development, and it'll be really interesting to see some of that come through. Definitely. How can UK textile manufacturers get involved now? You've got a new call out at the moment, which is the 6-month sustainability call. What do people do to get involved, and how long have they got?
Well, FFF is it's an industry-led program, so I think we're very open to proposals coming in from industry. That's where the vast majority of the projects that we're doing have originated. So any company or companies working together that believe they have an innovative proposition can just make contact. And you mentioned at the end of, I think it's at the end of February, around that time. Yeah. Our next call is closing, so there's a window at the moment for us to put in funding to co-fund some of the strongest propositions that come to us by that date. And that particular one is around new circular economies that could be opportunities for the UK. So I would encourage any company that wants to have a discussion about innovation. So that's inventions can end up being innovations, but something that makes economic sense, a real a bit of work that the company might want to do. Please make contact with us. We're very, very happy to talk to them about how we can help.
Brilliant. Thank you. What are the next steps for Future Fashion Factory? Because it's coming to the end of its lifespan. What's the next chapter?
Well, we're continuing to forge industry-led R&D collaboration. So even when this program completes, we will continue with that same way of working. So we're putting together projects and levering external investment from elsewhere too. So that we'll continue very much to make sure that what we've started will continue. And I think also to support the ongoing development and commercialization of some of the projects and the technologies that we've been developing is important to us with those industry partners and potentially with external investors as well.
Tell me about Litac then. So this was launched. This is a new institute. Tell me a bit about how that came about, what its remit is.
It's a new institute, but it's not new in the sense that we've been doing textile research at the University of Leeds for nearly 150 years. not me personally, but
just a few of those.
Yes. So it's a multidisciplinary research institute. It's a university research institute. So it draws on the strengths across what is a Russell Group university in the UK, the University of Leeds. And the principal objective is to address global challenges in textile and colour industries, again through collaborative research and innovation. So we're built on 150 years of history, but we're forward-looking, not backward-looking. So we're looking at those challenges that the industry faces today and we think will face in the future. And a lot of our work is around developing innovative science and technology, fundamentally. So that's new materials, new processes, new methods, and manufacturing processes. So there's a large group of people working collaboratively across many different fields. And in textiles, of course, it's not just aimed at clothing, it's also technical textiles and a vast array of applications and markets that textile materials find their way into. It is very much on our core business. Basically, it's very much on our radar, and there's lots going on in many different areas there.
How could UK textile manufacturers work with Litac? Is that something that they can kind of approach? What's the mechanism to make that happen?
Well, we have collaborative projects, again, with often supported externally by UK research and innovation, for example. We have industry-funded PhD students and other researchers working in the institute. There are also knowledge transfer partnerships too that involve industry. There are lots of different mechanisms depending on what it is that the company wants to do, the timescales that involves. So it's very much again a collaborative institute. We're very, very aware and open to real world needs. We're not about coming up with ideas and then expecting industry to think they're great. We have the humility to listen, and we really want to make sure we're working on the right problems. So I think in the first instance, just make contact with us. We're very happy to talk to you.
You mentioned some of the challenges you're looking to address. What are some of the key research areas you're looking to explore in the kind of short, medium term?
Yeah, I mean, not surprisingly, there are some major challenges around sustainable development and the clean growth agenda. How do we actually operationalise circular economies rather than just talking about them at scale?
You've got the answer to that, I think.
The business model is really, really important. So that's one area, and also there are increasing impacts due to global population growth and the ageing population as well around healthcare, for example. So that there are countless consumer healthcare and industrial products that contain textile materials or depend on colour to ensure they work. So these are all areas that have our attention. I think with regard to the short term, just to give you a flavour at the moment, there are projects running on innovative recycling and reuse technologies. Some of my colleagues are working on textile materials that are going to be designed to be resistant to the release of microplastics in the form of short fibre. So building the products at source so they're more resistant to shedding fibre. Innovative laundry treatments to promote the longevity of fabrics so that they last longer and look better for longer. And then lots of developments in technical textiles, including fabrics that have the ability to diagnose infection. So you don't need to go to the hospital to know that the wound is, your wound is infected if you're wearing wound dressing. So lots of very diverse things going on, which are all responding to a need right now. I think in the longer term, I'm sure there will be a continuous stream of those developments that we are faced with having to deliver. But in the longer term, we also have to be mindful of some of the external environmental changes around legislation and regulation. So, we could potentially have extended producer responsibility coming in. Yeah. Certainly, it's already there in other parts of Europe.
Yeah.
Also, around some of what might be coming down the line could influence what materials we're allowed to use. So, the whole plastics debate, and how do we navigate that with innovation? And then I think too, just another area is another effect of digitalization, and that's, we know roughly what a smart digital factory might look like for the automotive industry, but what might it look like for the textile industry? You know, if we're able to harness technology to create extremely flexible, sort of self-adapting manufacturing capability in textiles beyond just basic automation and predictive analytics, what would we be able to do, and what might that look like? So I think there's enormous opportunity to potentially increase competitiveness, reduce lead times, and increase margins as well, which is, would be great for our industry. So that's longer term, but there are some real opportunities there, I think.
Through your work with Future Fashion Factory in particular, I guess, what would you, you've been working with a lot of UK textile manufacturers most recently. What would you see as some of the key strengths of how businesses are working today? What would you say some of the... So we've got a really great heritage in this country of kind of...
Yes, we've got a great heritage, but I think the key strengths are probably in 3 words. In no particular order, right? So I'd say, generally speaking, quality, provenance, and innovation, and the willingness to innovate. So that the quality, some of that goes without saying, because working with luxury brands, it's incredibly important, and it's very evident that a lot of effort goes into to maintain that quality. But also the level of innovation is essential in order to be able to remain competitive. And the provenance is important too. It means something to be made in the UK, to be designed in the UK. This is a regulated environment. As you mentioned, there's a tremendous heritage as well in many cases, and a lot of expertise and know-how embodied in the design and manufacture of fabrics and finished products that come from the UK. So I always, we haven't been able to visit as many factories recently for obvious reasons, but it was what got me into textiles in the first place, is just seeing the amazing things that go on in the UK industry is wonderful, really. And
obviously, we've had an incredible response to something like Future Fashion Factory from industry, but some companies, I guess, would still be a bit reluctant about how they could get involved. Is my project, is it classed as an innovation? How would you say companies that might be a bit hesitant, how would they best get involved? What are the steps to getting involved with education and research?
Well, there's no need to wait for a call for proposals or an advertisement that we put out. I am supported by a wonderful team of colleagues, and frankly, without whom I'd be really struggling. But they're a great bunch of people, and we are very, very happy to have just an informal conversation with any company or any innovator about their idea, and to take them through what might be possible with no expectations and in confidence. So I think that's the best thing I can say, is not to be afraid. Because
that's it. I think there's
not to be afraid. We're not going to judge the idea. But I think the best thing is, like always, is just have a chat about it. And one thing we've been doing as well is just providing support, signposting businesses as well, to other organisations and people where appropriate, to help them do what they'd like to do. Because sometimes it's more business support than innovation.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's still important, to be able to get access to that support when a business is trying to move forward.
Definitely. I think we've seen that be really successful through something like Future Fashion Factory, but I think there's probably still a kind of, for some companies, it's like, oh, that feels a bit outside of my remit. I'm not sure what that looks like, how I would get involved. And I think from what you were saying, it's a case of start the conversation and don't feel, come with an idea, but don't feel embarrassed.
No, definitely not. Don't no.
No, brilliant.
It's not Dragon's Den. We're not going to look really stroppy and
yeah.
yeah,
no.
create lots of stress. That's not what we want to do.
Exactly. No, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Steve. It's been really helpful. And I look forward to hearing more about Litac as things develop. But thank you very much.
Tara. Thank you.
Thank you.